such a time as this.
And welcome to For Such a Time as This round table. I apologize. We were not able to get the link out to Rumble. It seems as though they were having some sort of glitch whenever I went live and scheduled it for later on. It went live immediately, so we could not schedule a live viewing for 8:30 tonight through Rumble. So we only were able to get the YouTube link out. So I think people are going to come in later on and whatnot. But welcome, Ben. Welcome, Terry. How are you all?
Good.
Yeah, doing well.
So,
thank you.
Israel or Palestine? Whose land is it? Do y'all want to guess what my view is at all?
I think we already know Israel's.
I mean, I'm like, are we going to be able to talk about this for an hour?
Why would you think so? Why would you
I think everybody who's listened to more than a couple podcasts is going to know what what our view is.
Well, we're going to give an update of where we stand. I did not find the clip, but it seems like Yemen has fired off some missiles. Did y'all read that?
No, I did not.
Yemen
no,
has
I
fired
heard
off
it
some
Really?
about it, but I didn't read it.
Yeah. If that's true.
Yemen fired missiles at who?
Israel.
Israel. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A ballistic missile fired from Yemen. Israel shot it down.
Yeah, they shot it down.
Wow. So Yemen's getting involved.
Yeah. So here's what we'll do. As always, if you could give me a thumbs up on the platform, give me a thumbs up. Let me know we're coming through loud and clear. That would be greatly appreciated. Thumbs up. Israel or Palestine? Whose land is it really?
Oh, I have a correction though.
What?
The headline here says Israel shot down a ballistic missile fired from Yemen, U.S. officials say. But then when you read the first line, it says a U.S. Navy warship shot down multiple drones and 3 cruise missiles that were fired from Yemen.
Wow. So we shot down some stuff from Yemen too.
Oh.
So Yemen. So that is the fear that some other nations would get involved. So here's what we're going to do. This is a Christian ministry. For Such a Time as This is a Christian ministry of New Hope Community Church in Palestine, Illinois. So we're going to approach this, guess what, from a biblical Christian perspective on whose land is it. So, but before we go any further, there's a recent U.S. president who actually weighed in on the issue of the Gaza and Israel's strife, one of Terry's and Ben's favorite. So let's hear the wisdom as Obama weighs in.
Their right to justice must also.
Let me start that over. Sorry, technical difficulties. Here we go again.
But the Palestinian people's right to self-determination, their right to justice, must also be recognized. And put yourself in their shoes. Look at the world through their eyes. It is not fair that a Palestinian child cannot grow up in a state of their own. Their entire lives with the presence of a foreign army that controls the movements, not just of those young people, but their parents, their grandparents, every single day. It's not just when settler violence against Palestinians goes unpunished. It's not right to prevent Palestinians from farming their lands or restricting a student's ability to move around the West Bank or displace Palestinian families from their homes. Neither occupation nor expulsion is the answer. Just as Israelis built a state in their homeland, Palestinians have a right to be a free people in their own land.
Wow.
Did you know Israel prevented them from farming on their own land? When did that happen?
Gosh.
When I don't have the time, but there were several factual errors
Yes.
in what he said.
Yeah. He's the
Simply
enemy.
not true.
Yeah, he's the enemy of the Israel people, Obama himself.
Well, I think he made that pretty clear. But I
can't even stand listening to the guy.
But the thing is, at least you would want to be somewhat factual.
I guess you don't have to be if you're his audience.
But I'm sure that was intentional. He's
Ben, are you going to
like,
say that the U.S. president lied?
Yes.
On purpose?
Yes, he's a liar. He knows he's lied. He is one of the best deceivers in the political game. Barack Hussein Obama. I'll give him that. He's a very great deceptor.
Wikipedia's got a lot of problems, but they got this right. It says the governance of the Gaza Strip since the Hamas takeover of the Gaza Strip in June 2007 has been carried out by Hamas.
Yes.
Which is often referred to as the Hamas government in Gaza.
Yeah. All right. Here's an update on the current. Of course, Obama, that was a few years back. Here's an update on where the war is now as Israel continues to push forward in the Gaza Strip.
Forces are moving deeper into Gaza, pushing tanks and troops on its main city in an attempt to squeeze Hamas in the center. It comes as Israel says at least 240 hostages are being held in Gaza, and as the terror group blocks evacuations from the war zone.
Obviously, with respect to hostages, Hamas has not yet agreed to release anyone other than the 4 hostages, including the 2 American citizens. And with respect to American citizens who want to leave Gaza, they continue to not operate their side of the Rafah gate. So what we have done is try to work with partners who have relationships with Hamas to impress upon them the need to do both. I won't speak to the details of those negotiations because we don't think it's useful to do so publicly, but it is a high priority for us, obviously.
Doug Collins is the former ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee and joins me now. Doug, good morning to you. So you have the Rafah crossing. On one side, it's operated by Egypt. The other side is operated by Hamas. According to the State Department, Hamas isn't opening up their gate. So essentially, they're keeping an untold number of people inside the Gaza Strip, including Americans. How do you navigate this situation?
Well, it's very difficult. But I mean, we sort of set up Hamas to do this because this is, this their side. Look, they have no incentive to send anyone out. They have no incentive to get rid of the hostage. They have no incentive to put anybody through the Rafah gate. And because really, I'll be honest, they probably are infiltrated the rest of the civilian population so that they're using them as they always do as human shields.
Right.
So it's not up to Hamas to say. In fact, for them, it would be sort of crazy for them to actually let people out because they're losing their shields, they're losing their leverage that they believe they have.
Yeah, Israel's telling Palestinians to leave the danger zone. Then you have Hamas trapping people inside the Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
So there's Hamas, and of course there's Iran. And yesterday the Pentagon confirmed a 24th attack on U.S. forces, either in Iraq or Syria, since October 17th. Iran's foreign minister said the attack on American bases in the region, especially in Iraq, is the result of wrong American policies in the region, which we hope it will correct. You reap what you sow.
There you have it.
Some pretty strong accusations from Iran.
Or selling wolf tickets. I don't know if wolf tickets are still a thing. But here you have Israel telling the civilians to get out.
Right.
And what is Hamas doing?
Keeping them in
That's
there.
what they always do.
Keeping them in. But it's Israel's fault. See, that is Israel's fault.
It will always be their fault, according to them.
Even that is Israel's fault.
You can get good pictures that way when civilians are killed.
Yeah.
And yeah.
No.
That's been going on for as long as I can remember.
Yes. And Israel is not bagging down. Thank you, Denise, for your thumbs up.
You know what's interesting? I was talking to my brother tonight. He was in Jerusalem or Israel 3 years ago, and there's parts in Israel where the Palestinians have their own passports, everything.
Yep.
Their own. They don't even recognize Israel, and
In
even
the West
if
Bank,
Jews,
probably in the West Bank, right?
yeah, and if Jews walk in the territory in Israel, they can get killed in Israel. And I was like, wait, so they have their own laws? They don't have to follow it. I thought that was crazy. I didn't even know that.
Yep. And the West Bank is divided. You'll see it. I think it's in the video. I watched so many videos on this. I've caught up a lot on the history, and we're going to go over the history of how this came to be in the Middle East. And I think it'll be educational for a lot of people. But at this point, everyone is calling for Netanyahu and the Israelis to call a ceasefire. And I think for the first time in decades, Israel is telling the world, you could jump in the lake. We're not playing this game again. Hamas has crossed the line, and there's this Israeli on the news. I'm pretty sure he's Israeli. He has to be very clear on what the stance of Israel is.
Do you think that's possible, to obliterate Hamas, to crush that ideology?
I don't think you're listening to me. Israel has suffered the most heinous crime. The people of Israel demand, all right-thinking people demand, that this genocidal bunch of murderers are obliterated from the face of the earth. And believe you me, it will happen. Now, Israel will always put their hand out, one hand out to peace. That is in our nature. We wish to live in peace in this region. We, of course, that one of the reasons why this entire terrible thing has happened is because we were getting closer, peace, particularly with Saudi Arabia. We knew that the genocidal murderers in Hamas and in Iran, their principal funders, didn't want that to happen, which is why they launched this attack. So we will always try our hardest for peace. But in the words of King David, there is a time for peace and a time for war. And right now, it's time to obliterate Hamas, obliterate this evil.
I hear you, and I'm listening to you very clearly. All I'm questioning you on is when you say obliterate Hamas, I'm just asking how realistic that could be in terms of absolutely crushing them, because they could be replaced by somebody or something else.
Let me ask you a question in return then. What did Britain do in response to ISIS? What did the United States do in response to ISIS? What did the European Union do in response to ISIS and Daesh? They obliterated them. They no longer exist. The same thing will happen with our own homegrown version of Hamas.
Okay, Terry, were you listening? Ben, were you listening?
Yes.
Yeah, and who was that?
Some Jewish official on the British news station, and I guess they were questioning him. Saying, "You're not listening to me. Ain't no ceasefire. No, we are going to obliterate them, wipe them off the map."
I like that guy.
Yeah.
He said, "You're not listening to me. You're not listening to me." I think it was Solomon who said that, but that's okay. I think Solomon is the author of Ecclesiastes. But that's okay.
That was Ecclesiastes. The time to heal. Oh, time to heal.
He can't get everything right. Yeah, he got that right. He's a King David. No, it's time for war. This is war. We're not playing. And so you have Israel at a point right now where Israel is just saying no. And I the only thing I have to ask Israel is, what took so long?
Well, why wasn't this sooner?
Can any of us imagine going out to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's and then hearing the sirens go off because missiles maybe come raining down on our head?
No.
That's a daily experience.
No. Americans would never put up with that. Ever.
Of course not.
No.
Ever.
Absolutely.
If it was a false flag, if we thought Mexico was lobbing missiles, problems. If we thought Canada was lobbing missiles, wipe them out.
Yeah.
Wipe them out.
Exactly.
A mother, a woman over there who says she's a mother, explains, I think, aptly what most Israelis are thinking at this point. We can't negotiate with these people anymore.
No, you have to defeat them. That has been
That's
the
it.
truth
That's
forever.
Again, my question is, Israel, what took you so long? But here's I think she represents many Israelis today.
If a mother or the women that I've seen on from Gaza are celebrating their son's success by killing and raping women, when they do that, do you think I have someone to talk to? I am a mother. I will never celebrate something like this. Who the hell do they think they are? The culture has to change. They have to shift. Hamas has to go, and they have to decide, are they for good or are they for evil? Are they for peace or are they for war? They need to make a decision. It's not on us anymore.
I think they've decided. I think their decision has been evident for decades.
Yeah, lady. I think they've already decided, like you said. And again, what's my question? What took so long?
Yeah.
What took so long? Lady, I feel for you, but Hamas has been very, very clear in their intentions for a very long time. We played on this thing, I think a few weeks ago, Clinton, when he was sitting up and saying that when they went after Clinton because he didn't do enough for the Palestinian people, and Clinton said, wait a minute, I killed myself to try to broker a peace. I gave them 100% of Gaza, 97% of the West Bank, and they walked away. Why?
That's right.
Why? Because their chant is true. From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. That's all of Israel. They want Israelis in the sea. That's what they want. And and Netanyahu has finally come to the point, and the Israelis are behind him. No more, no peace. Hamas has to go.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejecting calls for a ceasefire yesterday, saying Israel will continue its war against Hamas, quote, until victory. And this is a time for war. The Biden administration reacting to those ceasefire calls yesterday. Watch this.
We do not believe that a ceasefire is the right answer right now. We believe that a ceasefire right now benefits Hamas. And Hamas is the only one that would gain from that right now.
Well, joining me now, Global Guardian CEO, former Green Beret, and retired U.S. Army Colonel Dale Buckner. Sir, good morning. This op-ed coming out from Benjamin Netanyahu, and of course those comments we heard from him yesterday, absolutely unequivocally, no ceasefire. The goal remains the same for the destruction of Hamas. Your thoughts on what you've seen so far happening between Israel and Hamas?
Cheryl, I think very simply put, Netanyahu is facing a military threat and has an agenda. You've got a political agenda in conflict of that. You have humanitarian efforts that are in conflict with that. Ultimately, there's no easy answer. But as you think of that kind of terrain, which the administration is also facing, the military agenda is going to be prioritized right now in the short term over all other agendas, which means ultimately these different agendas, all the way from the tactical level to all the way to the strategic level, they're non-compatible, which means ultimately this will be very messy, as no matter what decisions are made, there will be room for criticisms globally. But ultimately, if you are Netanyahu, you're going to prioritize that military agenda and your end state over everything else.
And he's been.
Yep, and you got to tell the UN, go kick rocks. Done. The UN still has not condemned it. They have not done it. They have not done it. They have not condemned the attack, and they don't care. So, and it's not hard to figure out where we stand and how we got here. But some people may not know. So we're going to go over real quickly the history, and you tell me guys if you knew the history of how we actually got here. So is this guy 3 short videos, and then we're going to get actually into the discussion in scriptures. But this guy puts out a decent video. Some of it I think he gets wrong, particularly the biblical part. But I think it's really insightful on how we actually got here, the history of it, of how we actually got what we got, this hodgepodge mess in the Middle East. And it's some short, little animation, but here it is.
Israel, the world's only Jewish state located east of the Mediterranean Sea, and Palestine, the territory of the Arab population that hails from the Israel-controlled land, have long been known for their enduring conflict with the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. The tension between Israel and Palestine has been deteriorating in years, climaxing with many violent clashes between the two sides. To understand the root of the Israel-Palestine conflict, we have to look back a few thousand years ago. Early history of Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In the 17 centuries BC, following the call of God, 3 patriarchs of the Jewish people, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, settled in Canaan, a region approximating present-day Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip, parts of Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. The region later had the name the Land of Israel, the Promised Land, the Palestine region, or the Holy Land. In 1000 BC, King Saul established the Israelite monarchy, which then was ruled by King David, who made Jerusalem the capital of his kingdom, and his son King Solomon, who built the first temple in Jerusalem. After the death of King Solomon, the united monarchy was split into the Kingdom of Israel in the north, with Samaria as the capital, and the Kingdom of Judah in the south, with Jerusalem as the capital. The land became home to a majority of Jews, but then it was subject to numerous conquests of various groups, leading to the significant decrease of the Jewish population on the land. One of these conquests was conducted by the Roman Empire, who gave the name Palestine to Judah, intending to break the Jewish connection with the land of Israel. During this time, Christianity, which started as a Jewish sect, ultimately became a dominant religion toward the end of the Roman Empire. In the 7th century came an Arab conquest, beginning the spread of Islam. The Dome of the Rock was built on the ruin of the Second Temple, making Jerusalem the holy city to 3 monotheistic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
He got some things wrong. Some things wrong, but that's a good overall history. The monarchy was not established by Saul; it was established by God's prophet Samuel. God gave it, and he let him have a king. He went to the king, whatever. So, but yeah, I'm not sure many people know that. Have they heard of King David and King Solomon? And have they heard of the prophets? Have they heard of the Exodus? I mean, the Jews, well, let's be more specific, the Israelis have been there for a long time. It is the Palestinians that are the newcomers. This is their ancient home, right? Now, the only person that can say otherwise is the Canaanites, but they're dead, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if when people say we'll be free, the squatters aren't the Israelis. It's the Palestinians. They're the newcomers. Abraham and them went there, what? He said 1700.
Before that, or?
No, it's a little bit, it is before that, because if the Exodus was in 1446, what I think, and they were there for 400 years, that puts you at about 1850. Yeah. And Abraham was 100 years old before Isaac was born. That puts you at about 1950. So it's about 1950 BC. Abraham goes into
Wait,
Canaan.
You're going the wrong direction.
No, I'm going up.
1750.
I'm going up. So from 1440, if the Exodus is in 1450, it says that Israel was in Egypt for about 400 years. That pushes it to 1850.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay.
Yeah. And so if Isaac, wait a minute, 14. No, that's whoa. I'm way off.
Yeah, because it's
more
even
than
longer
that.
than that.
Because that's Joseph at 1850.
Right. And
so you gotta
Jacob.
go from Joseph, Isaac to Abraham. You're over 2000. Yeah, you're over 2000 BC. You're like 2200, 2100, 2200.
Yeah, that
BC,
sounds,
depending on how
right.
old they are, right?
Better.
Yeah. So Israel's been there since 2000 BC. Whose home is it? That's their ancient home. Right? But now that was a good rendition. He goes on. He continues. Here we go.
In Palestine under the British rule. World War I exploded and ended with the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. Its land in the Middle East was carved by the British and French empires. The British then gave more independence for Iraq and Jordan, and the region remaining under the control of Britain was what it called the British Mandate for Palestine, where Britain promised to establish a Jewish national homeland under its Balfour Declaration, which went into effect in 1923. Tensions between the Jews and the Arabs who both claimed the land grew, which even led to acts of violence. By the 1930s, following the increasing Jewish population in Palestine due to the fear of persecution during the Nazi reign in Germany, the British limited Jewish immigration. In response, the Jewish militias formed to both fight the Arabs and resist the British rule. Then came the Holocaust throughout Nazi Germany, which claimed almost 6 million Jewish lives. After the war, more and more Jews then fled from Europe to Palestine to seek a homeland, escalating the tension with the Arabs. Overwhelmed by the situation, Britain began to withdraw from the region. The birth of the Israel state. After World War II, the UN proposed a plan to partition Palestine into two independent states, a Jewish state and an Arab state, with the city of Jerusalem becoming an international zone with a special status. However, the plan according to which the Jewish, accounting for only 1/3 of the population, was granted more territory, 56.5% of the land, was rejected by the Arabs. They began to form volunteer armies throughout Palestine. Less than 1 year after that, as Britain completed its withdrawal from Palestine, Israel declared itself an independent state, marking a new, bloodier chapter in the struggle between the Jews and the Palestinian Arabs.
You could sense a little bias there. They're only 1/3, but they got 56% of the land. I do see a problem with that. You want to know what my problem is with that?
It should be 100%.
It should be 100%. It's their land. It's their land. They've been there since 2000 BC. You shouldn't have gotten 44%.
Yeah.
But that's the history. So again, to say that Israel again is kicked people off XYZ, I've read more extensively how the West Bank works. Israel has gone out of their way to keep those people on their lands. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how much Israel has backed off. And here's what I think is going to happen. You heard it from here first. I don't know if I'm right for this. When they're done with Gaza, they're going to deal with that West Bank. They're going to deal with that West Bank. If the West Bank wants to get involved, do it at your peril.
Yeah.
Because when they finish with Gaza, they're going to turn to that West Bank. Because you see the West Bank is a hodgepodge. I mean, you have an Arab neighborhood and you have an Israeli neighborhood. Like you were saying, literally certain parts of it's underneath Arab rule and Arab armies, and you can't go there.
And
the
there's even signs saying if you're a Jew, you come in, you're at your own risk.
Yeah. And their own country.
And their own country, in their land.
In their land.
It just blows my mind.
In their land.
Yeah.
But the reason they let that happen is because Israel has been simply saying, we want to live in peace. Please be nice to us so we can live in peace.
Well, it's because Israel, they value life, the Israelis, but Hamas and Palestinians don't.
Well, if you...
They have a very high
I hear what you're saying.
Life.
If you value life...
To the point where, they do this is like the last resort.
Yeah.
Which is...
But it shouldn't. So here's the last little part of history, and then we're going to get into scripture. Here we go.
The 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Right after the announcement of an independent Israel, a war between the Arabs and the Jews broke out, which was known as the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. The war involved 5 recently independent Arab nations: Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, the Arab League, who invaded the region in an attempt to establish a unified Arab Palestine. However, a ceasefire agreement was reached a year later in which more than 2/3 of historic Palestine, including the West Jerusalem, belonged to Israel, while Jordan occupied East Jerusalem and the area known as the West Bank, and Egypt occupied the Gaza Strip. As a result, more than 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from the land where they lived for centuries on the day that they call Al-Nakba, or the catastrophe. With the deteriorated dispute between the Jews and the Arabs, there came more wars and fighting in the following decades. The 60-Day War. It was in 1967 when the 60-Day War broke out after a volatile period of diplomatic friction and skirmishes between Israel and its neighboring Arab states, Jordan, Syria, and Egypt. This brief war ended with the victory of Israel, giving Israel control over the Golan Heights from Syria, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and Gaza and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. Sinai was later returned to Egypt under the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty. After the war, most Palestinian refugees and their descendants were not allowed to return to their homes, but had to live in Gaza, the West Bank, and neighboring Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon.
You could tell by the music, oh, sad, they weren't allowed to return to their homes. They were expelled. You know why they were expelled, Ben? Because they started a war and they lost.
They started a war.
Yeah.
And they lost.
Yeah.
God won.
God won. And that's when they took over the West Bank. Now, again, Israel, what you should have done was what you did before is when they lost the war, expelled them. When they expelled 750,000 of them, they should expel some more in the West Bank. Should have gone.
Yeah, they should have been all
Because they
expelled.
keep starting the wars because they don't want to live side by side with Jews.
Yeah.
They just don't want to.
They don't want to.
Yeah. Well, they've been offered a two-state solution
over and over
again.
From the beginning, Terry, they said a two-state solution. They rejected it.
Yeah,
they rejected
they
it.
have.
From the very beginning, they rejected
They
it.
teach hate in their schools. We think our schools are bad.
And so,
I mean, it's
our schools are getting that, Terry. I don't know. But okay, so what is Israel to do at this point? Now, here's what. So we're going to look at it from a Christian perspective. So whose land is it? Whose land is it? Again, we're going to say, because we are Christian, we claim to be Christian, we are Christian, we're going to do what Christians ought to do and turn to our highest authority. Ben, is my highest authority my dreams, my experiences?
No.
Terry's your highest authority your feelings?
I hope not.
You hope not. Sometimes it does. I can tell you right when I get that McDonald's French fries, even at 11 o'clock, sometimes it is my higher authority to my shame. But the highest authority, the scriptures. Yes. It's the scriptures.
God, yep.
It is the word of God. Genesis 12:5. Abram took Sarah his wife and Lot his brother's son and all their possessions that they had gathered and the people that they had acquired in Haran, and they set out to go to the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. And at that time the Canaanites were in the land. And the Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring I will give this land. So he built there an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. That's around 2,000, it's over 2,000, about 2200 BC. That's 2,000 years away from when the Lord walked the earth. That's about 4,000 years from where we are today. Right?
Yep.
He says, I'm going to give this land. I'm going to give this land. Then you go to Genesis 17:5. No longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be called Abraham. For I've made you the father of a multitude of nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make you into nations and kings. Abraham, king shall come from you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you. And what's that next part?
Offspring.
Your offspring. Establish my covenant with your offspring after you throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant. To be God to you and your offspring after you. And I will give you and to your offspring after you the land of your sojourners, all the land of Canaan, for an that nasty word again. A nasty word if you're a Palestinian, an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. Now, we have some Christian brothers and sisters of ours who do not believe that God is even dealing with the Israelis anymore, the children, the physical descendants of Israel. They believe in what's called replacement theology. And their replacement theology says God is done with Israel and the church has supplanted and is now the new Israel. The new Israel, and God is not done. God is done with the physical descendants of Israel. To which I say to my Christian brothers and sisters whom I love, what part of everlasting is confusing to you? Do we not understand the word and its definition of everlasting?
Right.
And I love my
Seems
brothers and
pretty
sisters.
clear.
I love my brothers and sisters, but the hum and the hum and the ha and the han, I don't get a clear answer. Everlasting means, watch this, everlasting. That's what it means. And it's not just to Abraham, it's to his offspring. Well, we're the offspring. The argument goes, we're the offspring of Abraham. Yeah, by faith, but there's still a physical, the ones that still get circumcised by covenant.
That was everlasting too.
That was everlasting too. That's in this context here. That's everlasting too. And in Paul's mind, just go back and read. I don't want to belabor the point. Go back in Paul's mind, read Romans 11, and you tell me whether or not Paul thinks that God is done with Israel. The whole grafting in and grafting away, and be careful, church, that you don't get so exceedingly proud, because the same one who broke Israel off and grafted you in is able to graft Israel back in. It's a clear distinction in Paul's mind between Israel, the physical descendants, and the church. Two totally different issues, right? So to the Christian, if you call yourself a Christian and if you say that the word of God is your highest authority, Christian, whose land is it?
It's Israel's. It's clear as day.
It's clear. Who gave it?
God.
God gave it for an everlasting covenant. If you call yourself a Christian and you want to ignore that, then how is God and the Word of God your highest authority? It isn't. It isn't. Let me keep going. Ezekiel 37, 2, starting at verse 32. And he led me around, this is Ezekiel, he led me around among them, and behold, there were very many of this on the surface of the valley, and behold, they were very dry. And he said to me, Son of man, see, can these bones live? This is the dry bones prophecy in Ezekiel, right? Can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord, you know. Then he said to me, prophesy over these bones and say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord God to these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter you, and you shall live. And it's the whole thing in Ezekiel 37 about Israel coming back to the land, the dry bones living, and out of the desert land of Israel, he will call these dry bones to live again. And many people think back to 1948, the resurrection of Israel. Never in the history of all of mankind have a people been separated from their land for 2,000 years. Usually it only takes about 100 years and they're gone. 2,000 years separated from their land and come back with the same culture. How do we know it's the same culture? Passover, it's the same. Everything is around that Passover thing. They've been keeping Passover for, what was that, 3,500 years now.
Wow.
They've been keeping Passover, so you can't argue. Passover is the highest in their culture. It's what kept their culture together, whether they were in Europe or Africa or United States, even to this day. The Jew who could care less about religion, who eat pork and bacon, they do Passover. The Jew who does not even read Torah, he keeps Passover with his family. And he calls them He caused the dry bones to live again. But I want to go over this. This is heartbreaking. Luke 19:41, and this is Jesus when he drew near and saw the city, Jerusalem. He wept over it. Now, if you're a Christian, you're reading these scriptures. You're reading these scriptures and you're looking at our highest authority. He wept over it, saying, "Would that you, even you, had known on this day the things that make for peace." Who is he addressing? The inhabitants in the city of Jerusalem, right? Mm-hmm. He drew near and saw the city, Jerusalem. And he wept over what? Jerusalem. What did you even now know the day called makes for peace? But now they are hidden from your eyes. For the days will come upon you when your enemies will set up a barricade around you and surround you, hem you in on every side, tear you down to the ground, you and your children within you, and they will not leave one stone upon another in you, because you did not know the time of your visitation, because you did not recognize your Christ, you did not recognize your Messiah. And because of that, Jesus wept over his people. He wept over the Jews. And he said, hard days are coming. Hard days are coming because you did not recognize the blood that would be shed. The blood that would be shed to make peace on earth between God and man. Fast forward to his crucifixion. He's before Pilate. We went over this in church. We were finishing up Matthew at our church at New Hope. He's before Pilate. The trial just concluded, right? They pushed Pilate. They pushed Pilate to condemn him, even though Pilate knew and they knew he was innocent. So when Pilate saw that he was gaining nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See it to yourselves." And all the people, this is the Jewish mob led by the high priest, led by the elders of the people, the rulers. And all the people answered, "His blood be upon us and our children." The Jews said, "Let his blood, Jesus' blood, be upon us and our children." Then he released him for Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, delivered him to be crucified. We love the Israeli people. I believe that part of the everlasting covenant, if you look back in Genesis 17 and in 12, the everlasting covenant, I will bless those who bless you, I will curse those who curse you, right? And we love the Israeli people. They are descendants of Abraham. God loved Abraham. Boy, did he love Abraham, right? And we recognize their heritage. We recognize their privilege. But those were the people who said, "Let his blood be upon us and our children." And I do believe that the Israelites who have rejected their Messiah has been under the hand of judgment for God for 2,000 years. For 2,000 years. Now, I also believe in Revelation that at some point they're going to recognize they missed their visitation, and a large number of them are going to come back. You have Messianic Jews that are believers, right? Mm-hmm. But for the most part, they've rejected their Messiah. And I do believe they're going to come back one day to the land, and they're going to recognize Jesus as Messiah. But right now, I do believe they are under judgment. Here's the last thing. Then we'll finish it up with discussion. Here's the last thing. Here's one of the few things that survived the new heaven and the new earth. Revelation 21. This is after. Go back to 20. Oh, I'm sorry. 20 is the millennial kingdom, millennial reign. Here's what Revelation 21 says. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. Right? For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. Now you've got a new heaven and a new earth. God has destroyed the earth. Why? Because even the earth is cursed with sin. Even the heavens are cursed because of sin. I don't think we know the implications of this, right? Let me ask a trivia question. Did the moon have an atmosphere before Adam bit the fruit?
How would we know?
I don't know. I thought maybe y'all knew. I don't know. I have no idea. We don't know.
That's kind of out of left field.
Here's why I'm saying Saturn and all those other things, but they say they have no life and there's no water and whatnot. We don't know how that's been affected.
Right.
Oh.
So he's not just making a new earth.
Right.
He's making a new heaven. Right. Even the heaven, it had ramifications when he bit the fruit in heaven. The heavens.
Yeah.
Right. The moon may have been the moon may have been we may have been able to vacation on the moon. Had that atmosphere, right? I mean, in Star Wars, they go to moons all the time, and they're beautiful, right?
Yeah.
But the new heaven and the new earth is because curse is done away with. All sin now is thrown in the lake of fire. He has to make a new heaven and a new earth. And after the new heaven and new earth, what is the first thing that is spoken of after the new heaven and new earth? Verse 2, and I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem. So let me ask a trivia question. Whose city do you think it is? Whose city is Jerusalem's?
That's God's.
It's God, and he gave it to the Jewish people.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a Jew who sits on the new throne in the New Jerusalem. Who's that Jew's name going to be?
Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be careful about this. How can you be a Christian and claim to be a Christian and be anti-Semitic when your God is Jewish?
Exactly.
You can't. You can't. It's the Jews. It's the Jewish king. That's his city. That's his land. Guess what? It's his earth. And he's a Jew. And I am convinced that the devil hates that. That is why the devil is so intent on wiping out the Jews. Because I think it all stems from specifically the one Jew he hates above most. The Jew before he took on flesh that cast him out of heaven. The person that cast him out of heaven then came to earth and took upon flesh as a Jew. As a Jew. So the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. And God himself will be them as their God. I do believe that is the church. I believe that is more than just the Jews. At that point, it's every tribe and every nation from every tongue. That's the bride of Christ. Yeah. But let's be very clear. Jesus is the Jew that's going to sit on the throne forever and ever.
Right.
And I think they hate that.
Yeah, they do.
I know Satan hates that.
Yeah. And my observation too is like, look at all the godless. They all support this whole Palestinian thing. Like even atheist liberals, like it's all across our nation.
That's right. What do pro-abortion people have to do with this?
Right.
But there they are. They're marching.
They're marching with
gays for Palestine. What kind of? Where's the connection there, man?
Right.
Do you not know? I heard someone say, they practice. How did he put it? They practice conversion gravity therapy in Palestine.
Oh my God.
You didn't hear that before, Terry?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's gravity conversion therapy. For those who don't know, gravity therapy is them throwing you off a very tall building and seeing if you can fly like Superman.
That's what they do to gays.
That's what they do to gays. That's what these radical Islamic countries do for gays. What do gays for Palestine? Go ahead.
And that's the crazy thing is I was watching Dinesh D'Souza talking to Muslim. They're using the liberals in the Democratic Party so that the Muslims gain power. They're using them as pawns. They don't care about LGBTQ. They're just lying to the people so they can gain control. That's what they're doing in Michigan. That's what they're going in the West Europe. They're just using them as pawns.
Yeah.
Because they know that he even said the conservatives, he respects the conservatives because they actually fight for principle. This is what the Muslims said. But he said, we're going to take over the Democrats because we can use them. Well, we can't use conservatives.
A Muslim admitted that.
Yeah. Yeah. What didn't he was talking to Dinesh D'Souza.
A lot of factions vying for power, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I heard one liberal say, he's like, oh, that guy was paid. That guy's a fake Muslim.
Oh, my goodness.
He was a paid actor. I was like, no.
All you got to do is Google it.
Yeah.
The Muslims, give them this. For the most part, they're honest. The radical ones are honest. When we take over, we're going to kill you.
Yeah. And they play
Just Google it.
They'll play the long game, too. They'll do it through generations. That's what they're doing in Europe. That's what they're doing in Europe. This takes, 40 years?
When this happened, soon after this happened, the whole Israeli-Hamas conflict, the Muslim marched in London. And there was a sea of them, and they stood on top of George II's, one of those Georges, one of the ex-king's statue, and took a flag and planted it on top of the King George.
Wow.
And the caption read, London has been conquered without a shot.
Yeah.
London has been conquered.
That's their goal.
Yeah. And what is it? It's the way of the world.
What do you mean?
I mean, conquest is the way of the world.
The way of Satan.
It's been that way.
Satan domination.
Throughout all of history. I mean, who's in their original land? This is the closest. The Israel.
Yeah.
Israel's the closest
been there
thing
for
we have.
4,000 years.
Yes.
Name one. Name one.
And they displaced the
years.
Canaanites, but God really did, obviously.
Yeah.
But who else can say that? I mean, everybody else has been displaced one time. I mean, you understand what I'm saying?
Well, I think there's some tribes back in Africa that's been there a long time, Terry.
They may have been, but I'm sure they displaced another tribe at some point.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Throughout all of history.
The Muslims, all the Muslims in Africa are there no sooner before 600 BC. No, 536 BC. I'm sorry, 80. There were no Muslims there in 300 AD.
There were no Muslims in 300 AD.
I know.
That's
what I'm saying.
607 when Muhammad had that.
I think 602 he invades. But he was born in 563 or whatever. But he invades like around turn of the century, late 500s, early 600s. That's what I'm saying. All the Muslims there, conquest, all of them. The Muslims conquest. So don't. That's how Islam spread.
Right.
Through conquest, through beheading.
Yes.
They've always been that way.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
And they're not the only ones either.
No.
Yeah,
but the fact that
humanity.
They're peaceful people that just want to to exist and love and live. Come on, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest.
Well, I think the average person is content. But it doesn't take many people with ambition when the average person is weak and unwilling to stand.
Yes.
To corral everybody and create an army and go do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sad to say, most men are sheep, brainless sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Brainless.
Yeah.
But whose land is it?
Israel's.
Depends on who you ask. If you ask God, it's Israel's.
That's correct.
If you ask
he asked the students at Harvard, you're going to get a different answer.
Yeah. If you ask the godless.
Yeah.
Right. How can they recognize Israel's claim to the land if they don't recognize?
If they don't recognize
God.
God.
Doesn't recognize God.
They don't recognize God.
Correct. Well, hopefully we've given you a definitive answer. Hopefully we weren't ambiguous.
Oh, gee.
But from our perspective and our pursuit of the Lord, the scriptures and the Bible, I think it's clear. And we think it's clear. It is Israel's. Why? Because God said so.
All right.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Yeah, just got to pray for Israel. Support.
Yep. And hopefully real soon Israel will recognize they missed their Messiah and come back. That's what I'm hoping on. I think the Lord is coming back soon, and in doing that, Israel will come back also. Thank you.
Let me just say, though,
yes.
It's a terrible thing that so many people are being killed.
Of course.
But
Sad.
you've got the leaders of Hamas who, like I said, have their goals, and they don't care who they hurt.
Yeah. So true. All right. Thank you all. Have a good night. See you soon.